There's a narrative out there that the Bravia 8 Mark II has poorer out-of-the-box SDR color accuracy than the A95L in the most accurate professional mode, but according to our measurements, Sony continues to use a similar alternate white point designed to perceptually match their mastering monitor's factory calibration, one that's intentionally cooler than D65.
How many of us here fancy themselves as scholars? I know this guy does. And so I went in the back of some Sony documents and I got them out and I started reading. And boy, wouldn't you know, some fascinating things come to light. Do you want to know what Sony is targeting with this modified Judd white point? They are trying to better compare OLEDs to CRT monitors. You can't make it up. A CRT monitor. Official Sony documentation. CRT monitor. That's what it said. That's the whole explanation they gave behind their BVM monitor. The biggest, most expensive hunk of crap you could buy. You're an idiot if you buy it because technology isn't at a standstill. We don't have the same TVs today or same phones today that we did 30 years ago. Is that a fact? Yes. So when we start doing this fun little thing, I call it pretend like you're in court, okay? Let's pretend we're in court and we just lay the facts on the line. The Judd white point that they are trying to use is to better perceptually match OLED and CRT monitors together. Let me say that shit again. It's to fuck that. I'll read it to you because I'm nice, right? I will read you word for word what Sony wrote, and you tell me if this sounds like a good deal to you, because to me, it just sounds fucking stupid. But who knows? Maybe I'm stupid and somebody needs to explain this slowly to me so that I understand it. However, as a result, Sony has been applying an XY offset calculated by the Judd modified color matching function to Sony professional monitors, or Sony professional OLED monitors. In order, key part here, in order to match the display characteristics of CRT monitor. In order to match the display characteristics of CRT monitors. So, what they are trying to do is make everything really blue and really washed out because they're not trying to target even D65 white point, which already was too blue. No. Sony wants to make it even bluer so that it better matches the characteristics of a CRT monitor. So when I say that they are targeting standards that have been around for over 30 years, that isn't a statement I'm just pulling out of thin air, out of the side of my neck. That is a statement derived from fact, derived from documentation supporting this now, and derived from your so-called expert over at HDTV Test because he's trying to obfuscate you. He's trying to confuse you or make you believe that this is not what it really is. Sony is intentionally downgrading their image quality to better give you the characteristics of a CRT monitor. Because, that was the golden age. So if you've got a CRT monitor, no need to upgrade because that white balance was perfect. This is my problem with the industry. We are advancing technology, but we're still holding them back by imaginary limitations. And I would say imaginary at this point because your OLEDs do not need to look like a CRT monitor. Sony, lens to living room, thinks otherwise. This is why I say Sony has been on a decline. This is why I say things like Sony is trash. Not bad, not awful, trash. Because quite literally, you threw your CRT where? In the trash. So Sony's new OLED is trash. Because if they want to match the characteristics of their Bravia BVM monitors, their broadcast monitor, right, the 310, and it's trying to match the characteristics of a CRT, which is why they removed the OLED panel that was in there and gave it an LCD panel, right? The reason it would be trash is because when you are trying to downgrade new technology, go back to LCD to make it even older so that you match older technology as a reference, it is trash. Trash. You cannot call the Bravia 8 Mark II anything but trash. Along with Sony's new white point targeting their crappy ass monitor. That is not a reference monitor. A reference monitor is one that adheres strictly to the reference standard because purity is everything. But they don't care about purity. They care about matching to a CRT. A CRT monitor. And the point of this, me bringing this out, is to break something I ought not break, which is your perception that HDTV Test is a credible source of information, or that Sony is a good company that still has reference accuracy. I am shattering all that with documentation. Our Tings has freaking data for you to go read, to go see it's true, backing up that documentation, and then you're seeing it when you watch my videos and how vastly blue these TVs look comparatively to everything else. And at a certain point, when all the ducks are in a row and everything lines up the way that it does, you have to count this stuff as the irrefutable evidence that it is. Sony is outdated technology. We kind of already knew that with the way that they target HDMIs, the way they go about making HDMI ports, very limited, and the way they don't have all 4 HDMI ports rocking the latest HDMI standard like everybody else. But now you're seeing it with their white balance approach and the way they calibrate. This is important because for decades, Sony has stood on lens to living room. We are the pinnacle of television, the best way to watch, cinematic, and we're for every purist. But if you knew that that CRT monitor that you threw in the trash was actually what Sony was trying to bring out characteristics of and match their OLEDs to, it would change some things for you, would it not? It would for me if I was in the market and I found out that the brand new tech that I'm buying is actually calibrated to an old monitor that is actually trying to bring out and match the characteristics of a CRT that I threw away decades ago. Decades ago. So you can take this information however you will. But there is a reason I speak how I speak. And yes, sure, maybe some people, I guess really loyal fans of a brand, get offended, right? Suck it up. Huh? Because at the end of the day, that brand is what is shooting this video. Sony. Every video is a Sony camera. I will never touch anything else but a Sony camera. Why? Because I love Sony as a brand. However, I am not immune to giving constructive criticism where in lie it will improve. And the facts point to one simple thing. Sony is outdated more than the rest. This is why they don't really have market share, because anybody with eyes will know that, and this is why Sony still today is the most returned luxury brand. If you go to any Best Buy, anything, they get returned a whole hell of a lot more than all the other guys because nobody wants to buy it. Nobody wants a television that's going to be overpriced and really ugly comparatively to something that costs less money and looks better. And you never can put your finger on why if you don't have the experience to why it looks better. But you know it hits you differently. You feel that color more, and it looks better. Sony is washing out everything, and all for the sake of what? Maybe trying to preserve whites? I'll tell you this. If snow and a piece of paper staying 100% pure white at the expense of the entire picture quality after that is so important to you, just put your TV in the coolest temperature there is. And there you go, you got white. Because when you have a lot of blue light, whites look white. But everything else looks worse as a result. And that's why Sony's purples are bad and their magentas are bad. Because they are doing it wrong. And the whole point, the professional brand known for quality is getting it wrong. Admitting it in documentation, proving it. And is there anybody but me calling them to the forefront to fix this, to stop this, to change? No. And these are the so-called purists. So sit with that information. And as always, thank you guys for watching the #1 brand in honesty. And until the next video, see you guys later.